Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about a children's trading card game. Thank you Sundar, my Simming Love supporter. Today, it is finally time for the set review that you've all been waiting for, and you definitely want to hear all my shit takes. So, I'm not going to mess around, we're just going to get right into it because I have a slight concern this is going to be a long video. Let's get started. It's Atlas today, and first, we have Calibera, the little red bomber. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically not going to read these cards. I'm just going to tell you my opinion on them. You can read them for yourself. So this card is, it's cool, but it basically only has use in the Trickster burn decks. It's really the only place this is used. And that's fine, honestly. This card is a really cool, niche utility card that very clearly has a place in the game. And you are absolutely happy to take up like a legend spot. But if this card was like, not a legend in that particular deck, it would be a bit ridiculous, right? If you could play 4 copies of this card, like this would be silly. So I definitely think, I've definitely changed a bit on it. I definitely do think that it needed the legend tag, is sort of my opinion there. And I would say that one cool thing is the fact that it is a Demon Lord, means it is searchable. However, you're basically never going to be playing yellow-blue. If you're ever doing a burn deck, it's going to be blue-pink. So that's less relevant for now. This card, I would say, is a very solid, niche, but in that niche, it's insane. Next up, we have got Mistworm Clock Tower Guardian. This is a far more versatile card, and this sees play in a lot of different decks, and in particular a lot of drive-based decks. This drive rulers fucking love this card. This is such a nuts dreadnought card. It's wild, but this is just great in basically every single ruler. No one is sad about restanding their 3-strike unit, right? Like that's always a good thing. The other benefits of this card, the fact that it's 7 HP, means that you are absolutely laughing in terms of being immune to pretty much all forms of destruction. The only real way that this gets hard outed is if you're going up against a Guns and Gold based deck after the game's a little bit in, which to be fair is fairly likely. They've got 2 Guns and Gold armory set up, and then every single one of their counter checks is absolutely terrifying, and you might lose this at the drop of a hat. Also, it's possible for your opponent to remove the charges from this with Sky Strike Arrow, but with those caveats sort of removed, this card is absolutely mental, super strong, very powerful aggro card that is, it's just really good. Next, I made a whole video on why this card is broken and also massively overrated, which you can check out. It's called Lucifer's Bad Card. It's like thumbnails Duncan. I was proud of that 5-second thumbnail. Basically, my opinion of this card is it is ridiculous in decks that can really abuse it. However, the number of decks that can really abuse it are like pretty limited. It's genuinely just like Owl Overlord and Wizard Yellow-Blue. Those are like really the only 2 decks that I think are like super nuts with this card. Outside of that, I think it's fine. And to be honest, I think a lot of the time it isn't worth the space. Like a board wipe is cool, but the whole meta is sort of like been like, okay, well, Lucifer exists, so either I'm playing things that are like so beefy that they don't care about Lucifer, or like I'm just playing like tiny little weedy things that are giving me the value I need anyway. And I think like that's fine. This is a card that will exist forever and will be a consideration forever, and it's a thing that you're always going to want to be wary of. But I don't think it's. I think it's nuts. I still do think it's the best superior rare because of how insane it is in the decks that can really abuse it. However, I do think that it's great. It's great. I mean, I'm copiuming here, trying not to make it sound like the most broken card in the game, but it like kind of is. But it's like, yeah. The card is very strong. Next, we've got Full Armor Valtros Rex, and something I really didn't appreciate when I first read this card was the fact that you can just make it with 2 Docklefars, and that is so insane. Like the ease with which you can do that. Honestly, sets haven't really gone anywhere in this meta, right? Like we expected them to just kind of die But the set destruction, like as high value as it's been, is actually not so prevalent. So honestly, this set removal is quite nice. You're always healing off it. It's literally like significantly easier to get out than a standard Valtros. The fact that you can make it with 2 Doppel Fars is nuts. Right, it's a 7/7/2 defending body that heals you, and its counter to end the turn activates at 3 or less life, which is ridiculous. This card is, you know, honestly, I think you play it in priority over original Valtros because, like, yes, no, I understand that you can't return counter CNTs, but like when you consider what you were returning anyway, a lot of the time you weren't returning your counter CNTs. Sometimes you were, and that's why you definitely don't want this to be like your only Abyss Summon target. You don't want to lock yourself into it or anything, and you do want to be careful in your deck building. But, you know, this counter is so absolutely ridiculous that this just needs to be played in Darkness decks at quantity. At least two, I would say 3 probably. 4 might be a little bit overkill, but this card is just mental. Super, super, super strong. Next, a card I definitely underrated. Valtros, this card, why is this card so insane? Right, well, 2 reasons. 1, 4/5/2, what a stat line. That stat line is so, so good. Yes, it is vulnerable to Lucifer, and vulnerable to Embrace of Eons and all that sort of stuff. Yes, I get it. However, your opponent's not always going to have that. Turns out most players aren't just playing yellow, blue, because 1, it's not that interesting, and 2, it has some really bad matchups. It's not like a tier 0 thing. This isn't Daruma meta, right? So this is actually a card that is so versatile. It's just so useful almost all the time. And it turns out, actually, you will basically always be willing to spend the DR on this. Like, this is such a high value DR, and God, the moment you get a single Guns and Gold army set up, or 2, this is nuts. DR2 to burn 3 or burn 4 is so insanely valuable, because DR2 to burn 2 I think is still really good. You know, this card is so, so, so strong. Just another absolute banger. Atlas high rarity card. Like, Atlas is eating so good this set. This card is really, really strong. If you're not playing it, I highly recommend you give it a go. Sonic Voltage. Now, finally, we have one of the less good cards. However, let's compare this to the last level 2 thing that summoned itself, which was the Owl from the starter deck, which had way worse stats and didn't really do anything in particular. The only synergy that you might argue that card had that was beneficial was with Lucifer. However, this is a Regan Leaf, so actually it also still has the synergy with Lucifer. Additionally, this is an Ascendant, which lets you Humpty Dumpty to give it Charge Shield. When you play this, you're drawing a card, so it's always replacing itself in your hand. It's a 5/2/2. The stats are really, really nice. Your opponent is not going to want to leave this up. And if you've seen anything about set 4, which granted there's not much of, we know superheroes are going to be a thing. So I expect to see some sort of synergies there as well. I think this card is probably the worst Atlas 4-star, but that's like saying, you know, I don't know, what's a good example? That's like saying Yellow Pink Apprentice was the worst apprentice in set 1. Like, yeah, but, you know, sure. But, what, like, it doesn't matter. This is very strong, but definitely the weakest. It's the hardest to justify, but when you, like, decks that can play this, like, are happy to play this. Next, we've got Embrace of Eons, and this is a card where I've actually also done a whole video talking about how this went from one of the best cards to really not that good. And the reason is the way damage works in Gate Ruler, you can respond to Embrace of Eons, is essentially the TLDR. Until that is changed, and I expect it probably will be, because it's kind of stupid, then this card is really just a fancy deal 5. And, you know, it's fine. I think in a lot of cases, this card we're going to talk about coming up, that in a lot of cases is kind of just better. Like, in particular, in, like, Trickster, like, way better. So, I do think this card is still very, very good. However, it's not the slam dunk broken insanity card that we all sort of thought it was. It's still very, very good. Like, the fact that you can just go, like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, in decks that can just have the energy available and can just go slam this down, pop like your Genesis Summoner or something like that, this is nuts. Still super, super, super good. However, oh no, I should also say as well, like, it like the big selling point here is the fact that you like nuke abilities, right? Like that's so good. So it still absolutely has a place, and decks that want to play this typically want to play 4 because it is so good. But I definitely do think it's not an absolutely broken card that we sort of thought it was. It's just a very, very strong removal tool that you do want to keep in mind. And, you know, it is what it is. Atlas has got a lot of very, very powerful removal tools this set. I would hope next set they can chill a bit on the Atlas stuff. They can, you know, now instead of giving Atlas these generic tools, they can very much build the archetypes that need support. Like, you know, zombies, maybe, can we make those good? Alice, maybe, can we make that better? I'm just saying. Ignoring that sort of little derailment there, this card is absolutely incredibly strong. Captain Zombie, so another very, very strong card. So this one is far more limited. It's only really usable in zombies and military, but in that deck, it's literally like getting 4 more copies of Captain Liberty. The stats are worse. However, this pop sets, which is valuable if you really just need to deal with some sets. Like this can secure a kill if your opponent was really relying on this sets to not die. And 6 attack means it hits over most everything. Of course, major contender in the meta, Darkness, it's not going to be able to, but everything else, that's super, super good. Also superhero, worth keeping in mind. But yeah, I think this card is another fantastic addition. Niche, far more niche than Captain Liberty in its utility, but the decks that can take advantage of this absolutely love it. So, you know, like Calavera, it's a very, very strong card. I'm saying that so much, but it's Atlas. Like, Atlas got, like, 8 so well this set. You know, another card where I read it and I thought, oh, this isn't that good. But actually, it turns out lots of 1-strike damage is really, really strong in this meta. Why? Trickster is a thing, and you can sort of you have more agents. Like, being able to do lots of little pings for 1 sort of lets you have, like, all this information over, like, oh, well, how much am I doing? And also, this is a really, you know, Breakthrough, Retaliate, and Charge Shield is such a nice like set of keywords to have on a card. You know, the fact that basically this is really, really, really good because you can just keep on pinging and you can close out a game with it very, very easily. There are decks built around just, you know, building a massive hand and then just going, okay, I'm going to bigwig you and win the game. Because if you slap a Charge Shield on this, or if you like set up so you can just slam 2 of them down in 1 turn, like this is an Overlord deck, this is nuts. But I just think in general this is a very generic potential finishing card in a deck that accrues a lot of advantage. It's just really good. I just think it's really, really good. Definitely one of the weaker cards in the set. It's far more like in the sense that it's more niche, and you know there are so many generic powerhouse cards. But I think this is a very, very powerful card that, like, you will lose games to your opponent just going, okay, well I have 8 cards in hand, slam down Bigwig. That's 8 damage with my 7 remaining cards plus my rule plus that, and it's like, you know, okay, well that's an OTK. And yeah, also, you know, it's don't sleep on outing Trickster. That's also very, very nice, which will make this card potentially more generically useful. And if we ever get a way to generically buff Zoo Brigade Strike, which I've got to assume they are very keenly aware they're going to hold back on, but if it ever happens, or we get a way to buff Strike generically on a unit for a turn, and this becomes 2 Strike, that's going to be a little nutty. So yeah, lots of future potential too. You play it in Alice. I think this card is so mid, but we take what we can get. This is one of the worst cards in the set. Like, come on, why is this checked top 2? Why is this checked top 3 or top 4? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, finally, a card that actually ended up not being very good. Why? Well, it turns out no decks in the meta ever want to be doing any of this combo bullshit where, like, you want to be reactivating all your stuff. Like, this isn't a bad card. Let me make that clear. Like, untapping 2 resources is not a bad effect. However, the thing to keep in mind with all the current rulers is they have a summon cap of 2. That sucks. You cannot abuse this card to just, like, combo off, right? You couldn't have some, like, insane, you know, scenario where you're playing like Genesis summoning and you can just keep on playing summoners and just keep on like making shit, right? Like, you know, that was sort of the big utility with an untapper is in Genesis summoning to just combo off, but you can't because of the summon cap. So you know, so the real utility here is either you're going to play like 2 level 3s or you're going to slam down a level 3 and then, like, I don't know, have some way of untapping the 3rd energy or like, you know, you start out level 2 and level 3 if you have 3 on tap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just very like whatever. It just doesn't have a place right now. That being said, the card in theory, like, there is potential. I just think that, you know, it just doesn't really do anything. Like, you know, it's just a card where like it sounds really good on paper, but then you like think about like the flow of a game and like it just doesn't do anything. Like, it genuinely just doesn't do anything. It's almost never worth the deck space. Yeah, one of the few currently bad cards, though I think objectively it's not a bad card at all. Next, we've got Major One-Man Army Garrison, so another very niche card. This is only really intended for Guns and Gold based decks. And, you know, it still costs 2, it's not like it's cost 1 if you pay the discount. And, you know, the Cover Me ability, okay, well, it'll burn 2 because, like, you know, it's selling a Guns and Gold Armory, but, you know, the stats are not great. Every ability is sort of toned down a little bit, but it doesn't matter because you're playing a Guns and Gold Armory, and in Guns and Gold Armory based decks, this is suddenly turning so many of your tools up to like 11 that it's worth playing like a mediocre card like this. So essentially, shit in 99.9% of decks, but Guns and Gold based decks, nuts. Very, very nice. You want to be playing at least 2. Next, Mad Jack Churchill. This is a card. Finally, we're getting into the mid ones. This is a 3/1/2, which is fine. It has 2 strike. And yeah, it's a giant killer. But, you know, it's a level 2. It's very hard to justify in a lot of decks. Okay, so if you can play this in Overlord, the Overlord decks that are going to have the counter space to justify this are slim. And there are typically going to be other ways of accessing giant killing on a cheaper body. And, okay, cool, you can use this in Trickster, and I think that's really the utility, right? Trickster decks where you're going to be able to, like, when we get far more advantage gaining cards, when Trickster can sort of amass this hand, and if we get ways to heal more, and Trickster can really drag out the game and become this sort of toolbox ruler that can like use all these counter cards to just like, you know, do silly things and always have an out to a certain situation, then I do see this having value. But at the moment, unless level 3s completely take over the format, I don't think this is a particularly strong card at all. Next, we've got Treasure Cap. So the Alice support in this, okay, this is one of the best cards in the set. I mean, as you say, like, yeah, like this is totally generically useful. It's an Alice without the counter ability, without the counter restriction, and you know, if somehow it doesn't die, which is unlikely, but you can just get it back so it can block even more attacks. But I mean, like fundamentally, like, you know, this is nuts, and you know. You can salvage it with level 2 Alice, so you can keep getting defense that way as well. So I just think like, yeah, this is yeah, staple 4 of in like so many decks. Black Hat Sith, another absolutely ridiculous card. One of the best cards to get printed in the set. 4 of in Darkness, like 4 of in like so many random decks, just because it's increasing that level limit. And you know, Overlord is a level limit based ruler. And, you know, the counter, yeah, it doesn't heal, but it's giving you more counter checks, which, considering the number of counter checks you're typically making throughout a game, can functionally be like additional, like it's an RNG-based way of maybe getting a heal, but it can also heal out things you really don't want to have in damage. So the synergy there means that this is kind of better than it reads. And, you know, because typically, you know, like there's no reason this couldn't have just been like, you know, counter take 1 damage, right? There's absolutely no reason it couldn't have been that. It would have been functionally, you know, it would have been like, you know, in theory identical, but this is functionally better. So yeah, I think that was a nice little buff they didn't need to give to it. And it just has all the right traits, it does all the right things for all the right decks you want to play it in. Card is very, very, very nice. We continue this theme of low rarity cards being super strong. Wild Fury, this is a counter to deal 5 to something, and a normal timing to deal 3. My only complaint with this card is it is a standard action ability, but you know, Trickster is gonna, you know, be laughing. I mean, look at the attributes on this, right? Like, this is a card that's just waiting to be abused in future in a sort of firepower based deck. Guns and Gold firepower based deck. I'm just thinking, like, you know, right now it's not great. Like, it's cool, and you know, as a counter, it basically does the same thing as Embrace of Eons, but it takes up less level space and it's more usable. But I just think that this is a card you're going to have to keep in mind, like moving into the future, because of those attributes. And you know, there's there's a lot of ways where this is already like a very powerful card. It doesn't like it's hard to justify putting it in outside of like very specific decks at the moment, but I do think it's something to keep in mind because of those attributes, right? Like firepower, martial skill, Zoo Brigade, very relevant ones. Whew. I will put my hands up right now. I completely underestimated this card. This card is absolutely one of the best cards in the set. I've said that for so many. This card is nuts. This literally lets you put a Beast or Owl deck together. Those decks which are typically a bit more defensive, especially if you're talking about Owl, and then randomly have bullshit aggression for no reason whatsoever. Also, this has breakthrough for no reason whatsoever. It's 5 attack, which means it's hitting over a lot of stuff that's going in the defensive anyway. It's just like the counter's not amazing, but like you're gonna have the DR a lot of the time, to be honest. So yeah, this is nuts. This card is so good. Like, do not sleep on this card, please. This is like I'm putting this up there. Like, this is up there. This is such a strong card. I completely slept on this when it was first revealed. Okay, finally, this card is legitimately mid. Yep, okay, you can play a 5/5 2-for-1. That's not bad. And yes, you can enhance it, but this is way too slow. It's not doing enough. Like, Zoo Brigade needs better cards than this. This is genuinely, like, not a fantastic card. It's not a good card even. Unlike, oh my god, just stay! Unlike Duchess the Brawler, another, like the other Alice card, at low rarity, this is so generically useful. It sees play in everything. Like, this is frankly better at like outside of Alice decks right now. You play this in Burn, you laugh, and you play this in any blue deck, you laugh. Like TD Burn 1 on a card that also has a DR3 to buff strike, such a versatile effect. It's also 5 attack. This will literally let you randomly, like the amount of games I've seen where someone just hasn't used their DR that game and they just slam Duchess down, they go DR9, this is now a 5 strike hit. Go. And your opponent's just like, well, shit, guess I'll die. Yeah, this card is so strong. Don't sleep on this. Try it out in your decks if you haven't. It's really, really, really good. Zombie Slugger, another card I absolutely slept on. Yeah, it only does 2 damage. Yes, you can't put it in a defensive zone, but still don't sleep on that. Again, in a Guns and Gold deck, this is going to become very, very good very, very quickly. And a lot of the time, like, that 2 damage like can be enough to really be relevant. Also, like, it's an instant action to summon it whenever, so also don't sleep on that. Like, this can be like that tiny little extra bit of aggression you need to suddenly close out a game. So yeah, I just think this is a very solid card. Definitely not like broken or anything, and the cases where it's good in the deck are relatively contained, but it's still a strong card, absolutely. Next we've got Zombie Troll. This is only good in zombies, and it's okay in Owl. Like you would play this because it's like an Owl zombie, and there can be synergies there. But I mean, I would always play Mutated Goblin over this, unless I really needed like the level 0 Owl that had to be a zombie for some reason. Like, yeah, okay, discard the draw is fine, but it's only really good in zombies. And I really wish this had discard draw too. Zombies could have been. You could have given zombies that. Like, you could have. It's fine. It's fine. Helldiver White Knight, another very cool card. So this is DR3 Zoo Brigade to look at your opponent's hand and your opponent discard. So this is a card that's going to get better, absolutely, as Zoo Brigade gets better. Right now, it's not great because Zoo Brigade is just not good. It's just not good. However, I do think set 4, we've seen that Art of Buster Kong. It's got me excited for the superior rare, inevitably, that Zoo Brigade is going to get. And I think it's really going to push them over the edge. I'm really hoping, these... I believe Zoo Brigade is going to get the good shit in set 4. It's really going to transform into a deck people want to be playing, and I think Helldiver White Knight is going to be right there because we are absolutely in a hand-based meta, and being able to just targetedly take out like these key combo pieces, like if you're playing against the big bad of the format, yellow blue wizard, and I just look at your hand and I go, oh, there's an Aras, alright, the Aras is gone, and then they're like, well shit, there goes my combo. Or you remove the Lucifer, or like any important piece, any of the defensive tools, and suddenly they're just like, fuck, what do I do? That's going to be really, really good. Also, not once per turn. So if you play this on later on, you can just go, okay, play this DR3, boop, DR3, boop, DR3, boop, close out the game. So yeah, super strong card, and it's a level 0, so don't forget that. Very, very nice. Okay, finally. This card is great in principle. In the current meta, it's total dog shit. Like, people, like, rarely are setting enough to be worth it. Like, you know, this is great if we're, like, in Darumagaden format, right? When, like, you know, if you're, like, playing Rogue in Darumagaden format, so, like, everything is, like, a full, like, suite of sets. But we're not in that at all. So, yeah, just not fantastic, honestly. Not a great card at the moment, though future potential is absolutely there. Yeah. Sword of Brunkvik. Again, I get the idea behind it. This is like sort of getting around charge shield things. You just play Embrace of Eons, man. Like it's not differentiating itself enough through its attributes or the level to, you know, like this is like more expensive than Embrace of Eons, right? Like yeah, okay, Embrace of Eons takes 2 cards out of your hand, but like come on, not great. A Bronze Star, this is a very niche card in the sense that you have to be playing in a military deck, but this is absolutely insane. Also, something to keep in mind is this can like... So one play I thought that was really sick was the opponent like Lucifer'd to sort of like board wipe when... the turn player attacked with their ruler and the opponent Lucifer'd, charge shielded up the Lucifer and was going to board wipe. So in response... the turn player went, okay, I'm going to Bronze Star, swap out for the Valtros, and then I'm going to DR6 to kill the Lucifer as well, so the attack went through, closing out the game. It was a sick play, and showing how versatile the Bronze Star can be in decks that support it. It's not just a aggro card. Very good card. Do not sleep on it in military-based decks. Ascendant's Wrath. This card is a bit better than I thought. You don't. I believe it's you don't have to have an ally on board to use it, or it was either you don't have to have an ally, or your opponent doesn't have to have a unit for this to be usable. But I mean, this should have said you can play this from your hand. I don't know why it doesn't, and it's just not good. It's just not good. And finally, Parzival, another like card that seemed cool in theory, but unfortunately, basically all like destruction in the moment is damage. Like it's just things attacking. There isn't much hard removal. However, I do think this card will become very relevant in the future as we get more effect-based destruction. And this is going to just be a thing where you can go, nope, I have the app. So I would hold on to a playset of this from 1-star card. There we go. That's my review of the Atlas support. What's my overall opinion? Atlas 8, so good. This basically every single card by like 3 is like a 6 or 7 out of 10 or better. And like maybe like 2 cards are just like bad. Like 2 or 3 cards are just bad. Yeah, 3 cards are just like bad, and like a further 3 or 4 cards are like a mid, and everything else is either like 6 or 7 or way better. There's a lot of 8s, a lot of 9s, and a couple 10 out of 10 cards in this set. Atlas is really looking like the faction to beat moving into set 4. And yeah, I just think it's got a lot of very powerful cards. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have I overrated some cards? Have I underrated some cards? Let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join my Discord server if you want to help support the channel. Affiliate link description. And with that shilling out of the way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.